And let me one. There you go. Started.
Well, good evening.
I think I might. Let me do this.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the Binghamton City School District Budget Roundtable for the 23-24 school year. I'm Dr. Tanya Thompson and I'm pleased for you to be here this evening, and I'm joined tonight by Dr. Larry Dake. We're going to be sharing some information that we have to date on our upcoming budget, how it's structured as part of tonight's roundtable. Share. Okay. Great. So each year, as the Binghamton City School District crafts its school budget, we use several guiding principles as part of our planning process. Our school budget seeks to help us realize our district goals, and those district goals are represented in as commitments throughout the district. We look for all students to have the necessary skills to graduate, to embrace diversity, to provide safe and structured school buildings, both personally as well as socially, emotionally. And we also look to make sure that we continuously communicate with our stakeholders. We've done this also this year by realizing a new district mission, for which we launched to help support the decisions we make as well. And we do this while we maintain and enhance our student opportunities and programs. We also do this at the same time by thinking through our long-term planning and commitments and use of our reserves, and to finally, putting all this together, propose a fiscally sound budget with a responsible tax levy. And so we're going to walk you through this evening the process and procedures that we follow as we build the budget, and some of the priority areas that we've also articulated last year and continuing on into next year. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Dake, who's going to walk us through that process.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. And I'm going to go ahead and point out a couple of pieces about our Zoom tonight. So this is a traditional Zoom. We had set this up to have a presence here in the community room and online. Currently in the community room, it is Dr. Thompson and myself. So thank you for joining us via the Zoom link. You will find a chat feature on the screen. You do have the ability to enter information into the chat. If we're not able to answer those during the actual presentation itself, the chat will be saved, and we will post any questions and answers that we have at this time on our budget website. We are also recording this as you will see, and so with the recording will also be shared on our budget website. And so we're going to bring to you tonight a very preliminary, very early look at some of the factors outlining our budget process. We're going to look at the budget process itself. We're going to preview some of the data that we do have right now. We did launch our 23-24 budget survey last week. We have some early data on that that we'll share, and then also go through the various timelines getting from today through the school budget vote on the third Tuesday in May. And again, this recording, any questions and answers, and this presentation will also be on our school budget website by the end of this week. So taking a look at our overall budget process. We start the process of building the next year's school budget really in earnest as we get into the fall of the current school year. So we have ongoing meetings throughout the year with different principals and directors, our BOCES partners, taking a look at month by month. We have financial dashboards that we share with the board, but really looking at the next year's budget starts with our surveys that we launched last week. Dr. Thompson and myself have been meeting with principals and directors really since Thanksgiving, and that continues this week as well. Finishing up, we have 10 building. We meet with all 10 building principals and about 15 different directors or individuals in our district who are in charge of a budget in some way or another. We have our roundtable meeting annually, which is happening tonight, typically the first Monday, full Monday back after the new year. We're going to have our preliminary budget, our revenue and expense projections coming up in the January and February board meetings, respectively, through budget presentations. That leads us to the board's adoption of a budget, which typically takes place at the April board meeting. The public hearing happens in May, and then the public vote on the budget is the third Tuesday in May. So we're starting the process of formally bringing this to the public tonight, and this process will be ongoing through that budget vote, the annual vote in May. So again, these are very, very early projections. We don't have the legislative budget yet, for example. We don't have our final expense projections as we continue to build some of those budget lines. But New York State has stated that they are committed to moving fully towards funding foundation aid. So in this district, we went into last year about 83% fully funded, received about half of that last year, and would anticipate receiving more towards full funding this year. We continue to have stimulus funds, although the post-stimulus funding era is approaching very rapidly. We have a set of funds that are set to expire in the next school year, and then another set of funds in the school year after that. So a big part of our budget thinking last year and this year, when we look at that increase in foundation aid, is how do we sustain and maintain the people, the programs, the positions that we built in through stimulus funding. And we'll show you some of that we looked at last year, and also going into this budget cycle as well. We have our contractual salary obligations per employee contracts, a couple of our major health costs, health insurance early projection that we're building in is a 6.5% increase, which is about a $1.1 million increase year over year. Our teachers require retirement system and employee retirement system contributions, which are required. We're building in a 13% increase right now, which is again another about $650,000. And then one of the big drivers that we really won't know until BOCES sets their rates at the end of this month is our special ed and our alternative education costs. So we certainly know we're going to have costs that go up year to year. We also know that we do have stimulus funding for this year and next year, and looking to use what we hope will be foundation aid increases to maintain and sustain a lot of those programs that we've already had in the district. So taking you through a couple of slides here on positions that we are currently supporting through stimulus funding and that we added last year, and also through some different funding streams in the general fund. So we increased and enhanced our Patriot Academy program, which is a grades 6 through 12 hybrid alternative learning program that exists here in the Columbus building. We increased that with some home instructors. And so that program is serving about 50 to 60 secondary age students who, for whatever reason, are not finding success in our large school buildings. We also added this year a school within a school, which ended up being in the D building at Binghamton High School. We added about 5 teachers this year, a school counselor, an additional school counselor, and an additional dean of students position to oversee that. That program serves approximately 60 9th and 10th graders who come into high school from both middle schools, demonstrating a need for a smaller learning environment to enhance their success in 9th and 10th grade. And the goal of that program is to take 60 students who otherwise may not exit their 10th grade year with the credits necessary to move on to a graduation track or a CTE program and really accelerate them through in a smaller learning environment. We also added a middle school alternative program at East Middle School this year, a school within a school. We had originally planned for about 6 additional teaching staff for that program, but due to declining building enrollments, we were able to staff that program with existing staff. So those are all programs that are currently in place that we certainly want to sustain going forward. In addition, there's a series of programs and positions that are currently being funded out of stimulus funds that we would look to move into the general fund if we are successful with those foundation aid increases, a couple of which that I'll point out, one of which is Liberty Partnership. We doubled our commitment to Liberty Partnership 2 years ago using stimulus funds, knowing those funds would expire. And then also our elementary after-school program through Cornell Cooperative Extension, which has been very successful, serving students in all 7 elementary schools. That's another program we would like to keep, but would look to build into the general fund budget once stimulus funds expire. Always front of mind is our commitment to social emotional well-being for staff. You can see here a year-by-year account of our investments in social emotional learning. What's within this graph and these numbers are after school, SEL positions, school counselors, school psychologists, social workers that we've increased over the years. And you can see that a large investment was made, 1.4 million 2 years ago in the 21-22 school year, again, primarily through stimulus funding. Some of that we have moved over to the general fund, and the other parts we would look to do so this year. And that also, looking ahead, we have about a $630,000 of new money this school year that we've committed to social emotional well-being. We have 2 youth advocate positions. We successfully applied for a grant to build in a dedicated McKinney-Vento support person, which is for our students that are designated as homeless, to have a single point of contact in the district for their families. We did build in, as I showed you on a previous slide, the PATS program, which is the 9th and 10th grade school within a school, an additional counselor, an additional dean of students. We have collaboration with the city of Binghamton that's going to be coming up around some higher level programming for students caught in cycles of poverty in our district. And then finally, our SWAG program, which is the Staff Wellness Activity Group. We as a district support staff taking SEL programs, or they could be physical activity programs put on by their colleagues, and we support that financially in the district as well, knowing that that connection from staff to staff and having those outlets is very positive for staff well-being as well. So we'll continue to monitor this, add this to that graph, and look to continue those investments going forward if we are successful with the funding sources. So we launched our budget survey last year. And so taking a look at some of the early results, this is as of noon today. We've had 75 participants, 54 thoughts shared, and just over 1,000 ratings so far. So we use a platform for this called Thought Exchange, in which participants can share a thought if they choose, but also, and more powerfully, they can rate the thoughts of others on a 1 star to a 5-star scale. So 5 stars indicating full agreement, 1 star indicating disagreement, and then the continuum in between there. So we can, over time, as more individuals go in and participate, can really gain consensus and synthesize large conversations to find what are the areas where our community is valuing. So I'm just going to take you through some areas. These are the same areas that we look at every year in terms of categories for the budget. You can see some top thoughts rated there around academics and certainly continuing some of the extracurricular activities. We have some early thoughts around arts programs and after-school programs that directly impact our kids. Highly rated thoughts about increasing students' access to art and music, which help them become members of our community. Some thoughts around athletic field improvements, some thoughts around increased security entrances. And I will say there is a question when you go onto the Thought Exchange about which areas of the district would you like to see capital improvements if we were to be planning these, and secure entrances to the school is one of the most highly rated of those categories right now. So certainly some of those facilities ideas are popping. As you can imagine, highly rated thoughts around safety, student safety and family engagement, and of course, staff safety. Some highly rated thoughts around mental health for students and staff, and then some highly rated thoughts around staffing and teacher pay and staff retention and staff pay as well. So those are the thoughts as of right now. If you've already gone in and added a thought or rated some thoughts, you can always go back in and rate new thoughts. This will be open through February 3rd at noon. And when you log in, it should take you right where you left off, so you're not re-rating thoughts that you've already rated. And again, that is open until noon, and this link will be there. This link will also be in the presentation that goes on the website. So let's break this down month by month in terms of what we are looking at. So currently right now and into February, we are looking to begin to build the three-part budget. Our administrative component, our program component, and our capital component. One of the ways in which we do that is that we meet, like I said earlier, with every building principal, every department head, and look at least 3 years of data in all their budget lines. What was budgeted, what was spent, did we have lines that were overspent? Did we have lines that were underspent? And really taking a look at what that looks like line by line, finding savings if we can. We also may find areas that we've underspent that we can also then shift to areas that perhaps we've overspent. So really looking at ways to trim that as best as possible by going line by line with our budget. We will get our first draft of salary projections in this time frame as well. We're going to review the input from our stakeholder feedback that I just shared, and then we'll really start to build that budget projection in February and March. We get better ideas as to what those lines look like. We have some preliminary information from the governor's budget. It is due from the legislature on April 1st, so we won't have final numbers until at least then, or perhaps maybe a little after, but we have some idea of what that's going to look like based on the numbers that we have so far. So what we do then is we build that program budget. We'll get the BOCES budget in February as well. That's a major component. One of our top spending sources is BOCES, and we also do receive aid back on BOCES the following year. So there's a lot of benefits of using those services, and our BOCES partners at the Central Business Office begin to prepare our debt service budget as well. The capital project work that we've had going on and what is due on those payments. This month and going into next month, we'll continue to look at those projected expenditures, at least 4 years of data. We'll get our projected revenues coming soon. The governor's executive budget, we'll have that analyzed at the February board meeting. We'll have some better information in terms of what is our gap analysis of expenditures to revenues based on what we know right now. What are some areas that we may need to trim? If we need to, what are some areas that we may need to address? Looking at March through May, the board will provide feedback on a fuller budget picture at the March 21st board meeting. We will do a formal presentation to the board on April 17th and look for adoption at that time. The budget hearing will be at the May 9th board meeting, and then the budget vote will be 1 week later, which is going to be May 16th of 2023 this year. So this slide is really intended to just kind of be a summary slide. It'll be on the web page. It'll have the link to the budget survey. It'll have those board meeting dates and what you can expect to be addressed at each board meeting, and then culminating, like I said earlier, on May 16th with our 23-24 budget vote. So that is our budget presentation. I'm going to go ahead and just leave that final slide up. You are welcome to put questions in the chat. This is a regular Zoom, so you're also welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like. I would say yes, raising your hand probably is better. That way, if we have multiple ones, we can jury that out. But if there's any feedback from the community or questions at this time, we'll be happy to address them as best we can. Okay, so we again appreciate your time this evening. This will be posted on our website along with the recording and the presentation. Would encourage you to go into Thought Exchange and leave a thought, rate some thoughts. We appreciate your time, and again, we will have budget updates at our board meetings leading up to the May 16th vote, and we appreciate your time this evening.